Hello, Michael. Thank you so much for joining me today.
How are you?
I'm doing well, holding up. How are you holding up?
Terrific. I'm 6 feet from everyone. I have my mask here, so I'm rocking and rolling.
Well, great. Well, again, we appreciate your time, and I thought we'd start with a question to ask about the business landscape in Europe. How has the global health crisis changed the business landscape in Europe, and how has it changed the way you and your company do business?
Okay, thank you. You probably hear this answer from a lot of others. I think one of the things is you really start learning how resilient your company is. How does it manage through change? What do I mean? You've got supply chain disruption, employee disruption, schools closed. So all the things that could go wrong, right? I mean, in a normal week, you'd have a young father, a young mother, maybe has a problem, needs to work from home. But you wouldn't really have the schools closed here, 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 and here. Okay, now my people are forced home, the train shut down. So I just lost one of my routes to move product or get raw materials. So you're really going to learn how fast, how adaptable your company is to change. So I think that's one thing we've quickly learned. How do you rotate people? How do you build schedules? How do you work remotely? How do you do forecasting? The number one thing for all of you, right, at IU, how many MBA students are coming, how many undergrad to Kelley, the same way for us, how many tons of my raw materials are coming, when are they coming, when am I shipping out? So at a very high level, managing through change, resilience become really critical. How do we handle it? I think we've handled it pretty well. We're a global chemical manufacturer, so our plants are open, but we have to adapt. How close do people get? How do we keep them safe and keep plants running? How do we make sure that our products are moving safely? Occasionally, some of our products are chemicals, so they need to move in a certain manner, and we have to make sure they continue to move in that manner. Um, how do you run a business with people in and out, right? They're here today, gone tomorrow, someone's sick. It's been a very interesting challenge. I'm very proud to see how we have been resilient, to see how we manage change, how we forecast. Probably much the same kinds of things others are seeing. We do a lot of Zoom, a lot of phone calls, a lot of talking, a lot of trying to connect. The one group that I think a lot of companies struggle with are our brand new employees, especially
Mm.
the younger ones, because they should be learning by watching, by being in a meeting and listening and hearing, or the ability for those water cooler questions like, hey, what happened? Or how, and that is really lost. The more senior you get in a company, the more likely my peers will pop into my office. But the fact that one of my most junior people is going to pop in, no chance. They
Mm.
would catch me at the water cooler or in the hall or at the elevator, but to call up my admin and schedule a meeting when, well, I just wanted to talk to him for 5 minutes, most people just aren't going to do that. So I think a lot of us around the world have started to think about how do we replicate that knowledge training for our younger employees.
Yeah. Right. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. So, when you think about the ongoing pandemic and how it's reimagining work as we know it, and you touched on a few of those points, what do you think about the future of work and the future of work within your organization? Maybe what are some of the best practices that you are seeing or that you want to see?
Okay, that's a multi-part question. So, good thing I'm a chief counsel for the company, so I can try to handle a multi-part question. I think there are two schools of thought maybe on the future of work. There's one school of thought that thinks more and more and more will go remote. People will be in their home. And there's another that says, no, we're going to get back to where we were. I hope we don't go so remote. I just don't understand, as I said before, how junior people are going to learn. How's that young banker or financial analyst or marketing person going to learn all the things they know if they're sitting in their home by themselves? I do wonder about that. But two different schools of thought on which way it goes. Um, I think best practices, I think in the pandemic for sure, it's getting people into offices. Getting whether they're tiny, but getting them somewhere where they can close a door and hopefully feel and be safer. It's certainly For those of us who live in a zone that has a winter, is taking advantage of your spring, summer, and early fall to have as outdoor meetings and get your teams together as human beings if they have to be 6 feet apart. I mean, that is really important. And staying connected with everybody. I mean, it is a lot of work now to be calling all your team members and talking and making sure they're okay. But I think that's really critical. I'll tell you something else. We're in the suburbs outside of Philadelphia. A lot of companies in the city want to get out. It's
Hmm.
too dense for pandemic. It's too hard. They want to get out. So if you look at housing values around the country, they were up in like every market for the first time in, I forget, 50 years, which tells you that people are flocking, getting out of cities and trying to get to the suburbs or even, further than the suburbs. They want to have space. They want to be able to move around. They don't want to be on, the 18th floor of a building trapped kind of inside their building because of Corona.
Hmm.
So I am curious if that will mean that more businesses in cities are going to look to move further out if their workforces are all pressuring them. There's a whole move to the city, and now I wonder if there's going to be a pullback because of Corona.
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned the Philadelphia area. How about your perspective, Michael, regarding what you're seeing in Europe when you're spending time in the Netherlands? Is it a similar type of experience
So
that you're witnessing?
I think, here in Pennsylvania, I'll contrast the two locations. Pennsylvania has a mask order, has had it for a long time. You have to wear your mask unless you're in an office with your door closed, like mine is right now. The Netherlands, after many months, has finally moved to a couple mask orders. I think the Netherlands felt that their people would social distance and everything, and for quite a while, the numbers were bearing out, but then they've gotten worse and worse. Around the world. That's not just a Dutch issue.
Mm.
It's been an issue for many countries and localities as people just started gathering again for whatever reason, and causing issues. So I think in the Netherlands, I think it's less dense in a city. So Amsterdam, for example, where I live, doesn't have the multitude of skyscrapers of, 20, 40, 50-story buildings like Manhattan,
Hmm.
right? A Manhattan, a Philadelphia, some of those cities that have huge density and very compressed spaces, I think are very different. I think Amsterdam is one of the greener cities. Many, many, many people bike to work. They say many of the Dutch were born on a bike. I mean, it's phenomenal. I mean, they're tremendous bikers. The biggest danger to a Dutch biker is someone like me who doesn't always know the rules or something. But so I think Europe's been a little different. I think they've tried to handle it through social distancing and resist masks. But as you can see, more and more they're getting pushed into masks because the numbers of people keep rising, and that's a worldwide phenomenon for the
Hmm.
most part.
Yes, indeed. Well, Michael, I know you've enjoyed a global career, and I'm curious to ask you what led you in that direction and what has sustained you regarding your global career in business.
So it started at IU. I did my junior year abroad in London and studied in London and thought it was terrific. I mean, I felt that I met so many different ideas and people and cultures. I was a kid from Cincinnati, Ohio, and South Florida, and all of a sudden I was meeting people from Ireland and other places, and I thought it was just utterly fascinating. Um, so that was probably number one. Number two, I felt like the global economy was really where I wanted to play. I mean, I really wanted to work at companies that were handling challenges around the world. So I went to law school, as we talked about, and then for many years I worked at a company called General Dynamics, a tremendous American defense contractor. And an opportunity arose to go to England, and I went there for 3 years and was a general counsel of their UK business, which again, you're dealing with the continent, you're dealing with businesses in mainland Europe, you're dealing with people in England. I had a meeting, there was an Australian, Irish, Scottish, British, I never Australian, I never heard so many forms of English being spoken. And the ideas and just the fact, when you start seeing all the global connections, I was utterly fascinated with it. That's what I wanted to do. And then I let's see, before this, I worked at one of the largest automotive coatings, which is auto paint companies in the world, a multi-billion-dollar, over 10,000 employees, 130 countries. This company's in over 80 countries. So you really have a chance to understand what's going on globally. Say, okay, if you think about um, some investment advice, right? You should spread your portfolio across, diversify.
Mm,
Well, if you're globally, you're diversified. I may have a problem in France, or it could be the economy's soft in Australia, but it's booming in Saudi Arabia. So that's a fascinating resource allocation question. I just thought it was much more fun, to be candid, and interesting to be grappling with the largest issues you can.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that very much. Grappling with these larger issues. And then my travels as well have helped me understand we share so much in common and want so many of the same things, but how business is conducted in the various countries, right, can vary very greatly. So that leads me to a question about navigating a global career. What
Right.
advice would you have, Michael, for a young person who says, yes, I want this, I want to be working on the global stage? What would you share with them so that perhaps they could be a little bit more successful in doing so?
Well, I think the first thing is one, enhance your portfolio at every opportunity. So whenever you have a chance to volunteer for something, raise your hand and do it. Whatever it is, and people are going to see you as that kind of proactive person who's, they volunteered for this, and what else can we do? Let people know you'd be interested in an international assignment, not because it'd be fun to go live in Shanghai, but because you want what that brings to your decision making prowess. If you're working, obviously, if you're working for a local company, that's probably not the right strategy. But if you're working for a global conglomerate, you want to tell them, I want to, I'm ambitious. I want to climb the ladder. I want to learn the company. Learn the company. Volunteer and
Mm,
make people understand that you're willing to move. I want to come back to that. Willingness to move
hmm,
has been one of the number one criteria that has fueled many people's careers. There aren't that many executives anymore who making move to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and had a beautiful, brilliant 50-year career there, or Pittsburgh, or Fort Lauderdale, my hometown, or Cincinnati, where I was born. I'm not picking on any of those cities. It just tells you how work is today. Is it's distributed. One other thing, when you top out at a company, don't stay.
hmm,
Don't be afraid then to say, you know what, I'm ready for the next level. I'm going to have to leave. A lot of people don't do that. The companies will break your heart, because you're going to be like, okay, I'll just wait and they'll remember how good I am and they'll give me the promotion whenever no, they won't. There's someone below you that's maybe better or whatever. And they're going to break your heart, not because they're bad, but because, the business is managing 10,000 issues. Someone thinks, well, they're just going to really look after me. Probably not going to happen. You have to water your career. You have to be the squeaky wheel. You have to look for opportunities. I imagine a career like a football play. You're the quarterback, you got the ball. You better be looking for the hole. If you're going to run through it, are you going to throw a pass? What are you going to do?
hmm,
You've got to, so I know that's very high level, but and look, also find your mentors, find your angels, cultivate people, ask them
hmm.
to teach you, ask them to answer questions. Gee, I see you lived in Singapore. How did you do that? So look for those kind of opportunities, work for the kind of people that have the ability to give you an international assignment. If you're working in a business called I don't know, I'm in the northeast region of America. Well, they probably have no international assignments. So get to one of the other
Hmm.
regions that does.
Yeah, excellent point, certainly. Well, I wonder too, when we think about career management and we think about skills needed for a successful career in global business, any other career advice you would give to someone to specific hard skills and perhaps soft skills, Michael, that they should be cultivating?
Well, I think on the soft side, let me start there. Be curious.
Hmm.
and everything. Be curious about your business. Be curious about what the people in your business are doing. Be curious about the projects. The more curious you are about your company, the more you're going to learn, the more people you're going to encounter, the more opportunities to show people that you would like to do more in the company. I think that's number one. I think everyone probably knows, don't be a jerk. Nobody wants to do anything for jerks. So, and you have to appreciate and show that you appreciate the difference in cultures.
Hmm.
We have some European, so to talk a little bit about international, some of our countries, if their prime minister or leader says you should do X, everyone will go do it. The Americans think, what are you doing? Our presidents can say whatever they want. We're like, oh, that's interesting, but the Senate didn't say that, and the House didn't. Nope, nope. And some of the Europeans find it weird that, the president, whoever the president might be, says something, and we're like, we don't care. And I said, well, in our system, the president and two houses of Congress have to act together to make a law, and then we all say, okay, now we follow it. But when any one branch would like us to do something, that's fascinating, but no one cares. And in their country, the Americans say, well, wait a minute, it's not a law. Your leader just said, hey, we should do this. I'm like, yeah, but that's so different cultures, right? The Americans are like, I don't care that they said that. But the Europeans are like, wait a minute, that is kind of like a law. So no right, no wrong, just you got to get used to the culture. So I think having an ear for some of those
Hmm.
differences is really important. On the hard side, on the hard skill side, I think some of it depends on what you want. If you want to be on the finance side, really learn it and understand it. And I would tell you, get out of just, the US accounting and look at, the international standards. Be somebody who can do both. Or if there's an opportunity in a global company to go be the US accounting expert in England or Australia or Belgium or wherever, maybe seize that opportunity. Um, if you're on the marketing side, again, think about, how do you get to customers that are global in nature so you can build that relationship with them. And all of a sudden your company says, yeah, we want to move you to another region. The other thing is this: the less desirable a region, the more likely a young person will have an opportunity to go there. Go. Because once you've been in undesirable region one, you now built a skill none of your competing friends have at the company. You've had that overseas assignment. I don't want to pick on any one country, so we'll just call it, fake country A. If you go to fake country A and it's not a great assignment, and you do well, and now you're probably going to go to good country B for your next one. You're on the road there. You're going to have something that the guy sitting at home in Chicago or New York, he didn't get it because he didn't go there. So um, don't hold out in your office and say it's Paris or nothing, because if you do that, you'll never get Paris. You've got to show your willingness to go to, I don't, somewhere that's maybe not as interesting or not as exciting or a little more challenging, and build your skill set up from there.
Hmm. Great advice, Michael. Thank you. And Michael, I want to thank you for all your thoughts shared with us today. And thank you so much for your time and in joining us.
Oh, it is my pleasure. I think the Kelley School, I think Indiana University, I wouldn't have half the great friends I have, half the wonderful experiences I've had, if not for the school. So I'm all in. And if it wasn't a work day, I'd probably be wearing one of my IU pullovers. So thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome. And thank you, Michael. I wish you a good day.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Bye-bye.